To everybody. As Danny said, my name is Leah Rosenberry, and I'm glad to be here with you today. My partner in crime is Tammy Tacker. We've worked together
Hey.
for forever. We've worked together. It feels like forever. How about it, Tammy?
Yes, a
And
long
so
time. Mhm.
we are math teachers, but we have experience with other disciplines as well. The focus for this presentation is going to be sort of interdisciplinary, all disciplines, if you want to call it that, but we'll go and figure out how we can help you. Hopefully we'll be able to share, even though we have a huge audience, so that's nice to see. But I am actually going to launch a poll, although I don't see the poll icon to be able to launch that. Danny, do you have that? And maybe I don't have access to it because I'm a panelist.
I do. I'll go ahead and launch.
Okay, super. Thank you so much. And so, yeah, we just want to know what's your primary teaching discipline. We're kind of said math, English, psych, or econ, and then you can choose from there. If it's other, that's fine too. And then you can just put that in chat for us. That would be great.
Still have a few responses coming in. We're up to almost 90% participation. So that's great.
Wow.
Thank you, audience.
Tammy, this is pretty good.
I know, right? I'm loving it.
All right. Well, good. So we're in good company, Tammy. So most people are math, about 74, about 40%. That's good. Followed closely behind by English and psych. And look, exactly how we put the disciplines in the poll. It went exactly that way. So that's kind of interesting. So, well, thank you very much. Like I said, we are most familiar with math, and we have some beliefs about how students feel about math, and we'll talk about those with you. But we would be glad. We want to hear exactly what you guys have to say too. So thank you very much for that. And I forgot to flip my slide already. So what we're going to ask you next is, and what we're here to kind of talk about is, how can we calm students' fears? That's what the entire presentation is about. We're going to talk about, lots of different things you can do before the class, things you can do during the class, things you can do after the class, that sort of all go together, though, to support what can we do to calm their fears. And so I would like to open it up to you just a little bit. You even though it's not a question, you can put it in the Q&A. And my question is, why are students anxious in your opinion? I'm going to save my comments about math until we're done. Like, give you guys a chance to enter some things, and
And
then we'll talk about that. Yeah, Tammy.
and maybe it's not necessarily because of what's going on right now. Like in general, why are students anxious when they come to your class or when they come to your online class?
Yeah. And Karen says they feel alone online. They absolutely do, because it's new for them. Absolutely is, right? There are so many things. Lauren says because they don't feel connected to the teacher or other students. And you'll feel a theme, you'll hear a theme as we talk about different things tonight. And it's about connection and instructor presence and things like that. So we all have those same kind of issues. And so we're just trying to figure that out. Yeah, uncertainty for sure. Uncertainty about what's going on right now, but also just uncertainty in general. Jan says they don't know what to expect. That's going to sound, we actually talk about something that we do in our courses, and we hold a what to expect seminar or workshop before classes start. So I think we're mostly on the same page with this idea, and students in all disciplines are afraid. I think math is one of those ones, and I want you to chime in, because I don't know, I'm just saying, I'm a math teacher, so this is the way I think. I feel like they just are scared to death of math. Is that the same in your subject as well? Do you think it's just, not like you think it's just math, but do you get that impression from your subject already in addition, or do you feel like it is um, um, I assume it's, it's funny that you said that. Chris says less fear, but more revulsion for English. That made me laugh. I'm not sure that that's true. I believe that there's definitely a revulsion in the math classes as well, but I know what you're saying.
Hey, Leah, I
Yeah.
saw that Valletta said something about she works with non-traditional adult learners.
Oh,
Valletta,
yeah.
I totally feel you. That's me also. And so not only is someone coming back to school after a long time, they're very self-conscious about how much they think they don't know, but then they're also
Absolutely.
thrown into this technological environment. And so they're having to learn the technology, and they're having to learn how to be a student again. So yes, I totally feel you on that one.
Yeah, and I agree, Marilyn, I agree with you. One time a teacher said to me, and I feel like it's partially true. It's like, you can't say you don't like, no, it's okay and more acceptable, I think, sometimes for people to say that they don't like math. But if you said like you don't like reading or you don't like writing, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but absolutely. So I guess the bottom line is it's spread pretty well across the disciplines, maybe a little more than in others, but that's why we're here tonight, is to try and give you some good ideas about how we can fix that and what you can do for your students to help them as well. So we sort of broke it up into sections, kind of before the course, during the course, and after the course. Of course, there's some overlap, so that'll work as we go through as well, but we're going to start with before the course.
All right, that sounds good. Thank you, Leah. Before the course even begins, there are certain things that have to be nailed out, just like with our on-site classes. A lot of times with our on-site classes, we know, okay, I'm going to have exactly this many class periods. I know I need to cover these topics. So boom, 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 here's exactly what I need to do. Well, guess what? As y'all found out, it's the exact same thing for online. We have to have a plan. We can't just go into it thinking, all right, I'm just going to email my students and they're going to email me back and everything's going to be wonderful. Our students need structure just like they do in our on-site classes. They need to know due dates. They need to know what, if we have different pieces of technology we're going to be using, they need to know that kind of stuff up front. They need to know what we expect out of them. How is their grade going to be determined? How many assignments are going to be due each week or each section? They need to know these things. I have two daughters who just finished up school, and I'll tell you, they're both in college. And they have grown up with me teaching online. I mean, Leah and I have been teaching online since before it was cool to teach online. And they were very frustrated because every single one of their instructors used something a little bit different because everybody was thrown into it, right? There was no structure. There was a general plan, but not a real plan. So they felt like for every single class they took, they had to go to this website and then this website and this website. And then when it was time to change classes, guess what? They had to go here and then here and then here. It's like they were going to 5 different campuses. They weren't all on the same campus. So really think about that. And those of you who have a real close-knit department or even a close-knit discipline, maybe y'all can all get together and kind of decide, hey, it would be really cool if we kind of, got together and all use this, or tried to keep everything in one place so that our students aren't scrambling to find what they need to do. So try to have everything in one central location. If your school uses an LMS, then yeah, definitely use that because the students are accustomed to going there to at least check their grades. If nothing else, they go there to check their grades. And so it'd be a little bit more familiar for them to look there for announcements and other kinds of things. Also, it is important to meet regularly. We get asked all the time, or we used to, whenever people learn that we taught online, they would say, well, how do you do that? And you know what? We get together with the students every single week. It is a set time. They know we're going to be there. They know what we're going to talk about. We record the sessions. That gives them a sense of stability. Is there a better word for it? It gives them a sense of that regularity that they get when they are going on site. Because on site, they're going 2 or 3 times a week and they know that and it's a regular thing. Well, we have to do that also in our online classes just to get that structure there. The students need to know what's going on. Along with that, we also need to be extremely flexible. I told Leah earlier, my computer has blue screened twice in the last 2 days. So as much as I love technology and I love my job, sometimes it drives me crazy. We need to be prepared for that with our students also and give them a little bit of flexibility. And Valletta, you were talking about non-traditional online learners. We have, where I teach at Purdue Global, we have a very high population of military students. And guess what? Sometimes military students don't have a say as to where they are or what they're doing at a particular time. Sometimes they go out into the field for a week or two with no internet access. We are required to be flexible, and that's one thing we are happy to do because, you know, we're just happy to have them and we appreciate them. So make sure that you do think about being flexible, and go ahead and think about it before the time comes that you need to be flexible. Think about, okay, I know I've set this due date. Do I go ahead and tell them that I'll allow it this many days at this % off, or do I just wait till students email me? I had one of my daughters, she stayed up until midnight finishing a project to get it in on time. And the next morning, the teacher emails the entire class and says, oh, I'm going to give y'all another 48 hours. She appreciated that, but it also frustrated her a lot. So we need to make sure that even though we are trying to have the structure that we normally have in the on-site classes, we also need to be a little bit flexible. And if we are going to extend due dates, let the students know. Don't save it until, you know, right at the deadline, because some of them may have kind of turned their world upside down to get that assignment in on time.
You're muted, dear.
Sorry. Well, I tried to do the thing. Leah, can you switch the slide?
There we go.
I had to do the thing we had already done. One thing we can do to really just bring everybody down a notch and let everybody be a little bit more comfortable is to admit that we make mistakes, laugh about it, and then include some humor in our courses. There's nothing wrong with allowing your students to laugh. And don't get me wrong, ask Leah, I'm pretty strict. I was strict with my kids, I'm strict with my students. That doesn't mean we can't laugh. And that doesn't mean we can't have fun. Matter of fact, if you will provide some humor either in your regular meeting with your students or in your emails or in a video you send them, it actually does reduce their anxiety and their stress. It takes a little bit off of them. And also it allows you to make connections with your students. And that's one thing that we're all kind of worried about, is how do we connect with these students that we don't see face to face? So using humor can actually help them relate to us. And it lets them know that we are human and that we're here for them, and we're not just mean people behind a screen.
Some of us.
Some of us are not. All right, yeah, there we go. So one thing that we've done, we have discussion boards. A long time ago, I'm ashamed to admit, a long time ago, our discussion boards consisted of problems out of the book.
Terrible, terrible.
It was awful. It was awful. And we would even say stuff like, what was that one about picking your favorite method for solving quadratic equations? Because of course everybody has a favorite way to solve a quadratic equation, right? We were trying to give them a little bit of flexibility in how they posted on the discussion board, but those were so boring. And students don't want to come in and just answer questions out of a book. So what we decided to do is we took our discussion board questions and we just twisted them. We said, okay, we're going to make these a little bit humorous, and we're going to make them so real life it's going to be funny. One thing we did is we came up with this evil genius, and what he's done is he injected you at birth. He injected you at birth, and you're trying to figure out how much of this substance is still in your body. So we allow the students to use the math to figure that out. And then also, as one piece of the discussion board, if they want to, for a couple of points, they can write up a little story as to why this was done to them, or maybe what superpowers they have because they have this injection. That allows the students who are super nervous about math, but maybe they love to write, it gives them the opportunity to do something they know how to do in this crazy class that they're sure they're not going to be good at. And it allows them to express themselves. And when we did this, we have a lot of students who are like, I love the discussion board in this class. I couldn't wait to see the next discussion board question. I get so excited every week because I have this new discussion board question. And those are kinds of things, you guys who are math teachers, you know, we do not get that very often. So just by one little thing, just by making the application super real and then also putting a little bit of a humorous twist on them, we were able to make this fun for our students and something that they wanted to do. Another one.
Tammy, really quick, Michael had a comment that said, what if you have no sense of humor? You don't have to have a sense of humor to write you don't have to be like stand-up comedian type sense of humor to write a sort of a humorous discussion, right? You could find one online that somebody else wrote and put that into your class. So it doesn't necessarily have to be kind of humor off the top of your head, that kind of humor. And you'll see we have some other examples as we go through that it doesn't have to quite be like that.
Another one that we had dealt with quadratic equations. So I know I told you guys about that awful quadratic equation question that we used to have on the discussion board. But we totally changed it to where the student is a human cannonball. And they're trying to figure out how long it's going to take them to land. You can turn this around all sorts of ways. And I won't really get into the math right now, but you can have them pick a time and see how high up in the air they are. You can have them pick a height and see how long it took them to get that height. Sometimes there are 2 times, right? You can also talk about what happens whenever you get a negative number for height. Because for some reason, students see a graph and sometimes they do not understand what that means outside. But when you are being shot out of a cannon and the ground is the x-axis, all of a sudden you go down, you know, a lot of students are like, oh, that's how far you went down into the earth. And we're like, that's one thing, but you know, it's because you've already landed, And so just by changing it a little bit and giving them something to think about, something that's a little more fun, it really helps them to look forward to these types of things. Another thing that we have done in the discussion boards are to make them very real life. That's one thing that we hear, no matter who we talk to, we always hear somebody say something like, oh, I wish I'd learned that in high school. And I agree, but a lot of the things you did learn in high school and you didn't relate them beyond the classroom, right, Leah?
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is one where we're asking the students to design their own man cave or she shed, whichever one. And they are about to do a ton of geometry and calculations to figure out different measurements for this thing because they're entering a contest. And whoever develops the coolest one gets it built for free in their backyard. So you can have them pick out flooring, you can have them pick out the roofing, you can have them pick out the little white picket fence that goes along the outside. There are tons of things that we apply just this one application outside of math class, and that really helps them understand how they're going to use this outside of math class, which is kind of what our goal is. We want them to be able to take this math and really apply it to their lives outside.
We're going to talk about video next, but I wanted to pick up a little bit backtrack on humor. Rebecca has been posting in chat about humor, and she said that she uses a lot of memes, which Tammy and I use memes as well. That's a great thing to do. There's different meme generators that you can get online that you can make it say whatever you want to say. My favorite, I should have included it here, I didn't think about it, is Howard from the Big Bang says that if hotness were, oh, I forget now. Oh no.
No, it's okay. If hotness were a normal distribution.
Yeah, if hotness were a normal distribution, you'd be 3 standard deviations above the mean. So, I mean, you know, not everybody's going to get that, but that's the type of thing that, like, you don't have to be funny to kind of pick that stuff up. Rebecca also said to join, you know, different groups on Facebook or social media with other professionals that share those things, and then you can just borrow them and share them with your class. So I think you're in good shape, whether you have you feel like you're have a good sense of humor or not. So the next thing we're going to talk about is video. And first, why use video? couple different reasons, lots of different reasons, but just a few. It's a permanent resource. So if you make a video one time, you can use it over and over and over again. Now, some of them you might not want to use over again if it's a certain intro for a certain class or something like that. But if I have a a video that I did on the quadratic formula, it doesn't really change that much over time, right? So I can use that again and again. I can build up this fabulous library. And so that's one reason to use it. Another reason to use it, it's relatively easy to create. Now, I'm not talking about the ones that are all produced and fabulous and have an intro and all these things, but you can do some pretty cool things on the fly. I have used Jing. I don't know if you've ever heard of Jing. Jing is from TechSmith, and it's the free um, uh, video software that comes along with Camtasia, which I've also used. There are things, apps that you can do on your phone or your iPad. There's one called Show Me, where you can write on your iPad screen and record at the same time, and it's easy to do little on-the-spot videos that way. They're easy to distribute depending on where you make them. And they probably the best thing, because some of you people, whenever we were talking about, why do students feel anxious and kind of what we can do about it, instructor presence, right? Those videos that show your face and give you a little bit of a human side, they increase instructor presence, students feel connected to you, and so they really do do amazing things for not that much work, which we love. I mean, I would love to do a million things and all day long and everything like that, but there's not enough hours in the day. So you have to find those small things that you can make a big impact. As far as what types of videos, I've already mentioned some. You can do an introduction to the course, an introduction to you as their instructor. I love to tell my students, and this is another one of those things that I think takes the pressure off, that is, I have never been your teacher, right? You have never been in this specific math class. You are not the same person that you were 3 months ago, whatever it is, like all the reasons why this one can be different. And I think just because I act like I care, which I do, because they see that I care about them doing well in the class and acknowledging that they might be a little bit nervous or whatever, I think it makes a huge difference. They often tell me, just, oh, thank you. They feel like somehow I've like written it or done it or recorded it specifically for them. And so I absolutely love that. You could use it for a course walkthrough. Tammy was talking about her daughters having a class, same school, 2 different classes, and then all of a sudden everything is different. Everything's arranged differently and things like that. And so it's a good idea, depending on your school and everything like that, if you have something like a course template where things are set up pretty much the same way in courses. A good idea for you, just you, even if it's just you, is to set up either each week or each module or however you're breaking up your material, to set those up the same, right? Here's the material that we're going to cover. I'm sorry, I should start with an introduction. Here's your introduction. Here's the material that you're going to cover. Here's the kind of assignments that you're going to have, and just kind of have a way that ticks down through everything so that students know that they're not going to miss anything. And Tammy will show you something really useful for that later too. You might have a big assignment, like a final project, and so you could do a video walkthrough of that. You might want to do instructions for certain activities that they have to complete. You can answer a student's question on the fly, like I said. I will sometimes answer a student's question, and then I just make sure that I label it, and I don't say their name in the video, but I'll label it with like the chapter, the question, and so forth, so that I can reuse that later. And so that's a helpful thing to do. And again, those videos, they maintain connection. We love that. And you can also do video summaries at the end of a section or an end of a unit or something like that. So,
Hey, Leah, I'm
yeah.
sorry. We had a couple of questions. One of them was about the ADA, about making sure they're closed captioned, and absolutely.
Yep, absolutely.
There are lots of different tools to do that. I know that YouTube tries, because what I do, sometimes I'll just do like Screencast-O-Matic, upload it to YouTube, and that way it's a YouTube link. YouTube tries, and yes, I do have to go back and do it, but that's all the more reason to make one and make
Yeah.
sure it's closed captioned, and don't say the student's name. And that way, whenever somebody emails you, you can send them that video and it sounds like you're talking right to them. And also with a video, sometimes the way that we say things helps it to make more sense than if
Yeah.
we type it. So definitely ADA compliant. And also somebody had asked about boards, and I have a little tablet and I just write on it. And when you're recording your screen, you can open up whatever you want, Paint or a Word doc
Me
or
too.
whatever. Yeah. And then you can just draw on it and it's there in the video. So let me read some more of the questions, see if there's anything else.
Yeah. So I should keep talking, or you want me to wait?
Oh, go ahead.
Okay. All right, that sounds great. And then, well, one more thing about video. Depending on your school, you might have a solution that you already use. Penn State uses Kaltura. Purdue Global uses Kaltura. Some schools use Panopto. So there's other, different software capabilities. I don't know, not really called software, platforms, whatever you want to call it, that your school might have. Also, if you do, there's a difference between having a student and wanting to, there's a difference between wanting to caption everything and wanting everything to be ADA compliant than there is having an actual student with a disability in your class. When you have a student with an actual disability in your class, you have to be so much more careful. You should be careful all the time. I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying you have to be extra careful. I know at Penn State, whenever we have a student with disabilities, we actually can have extra services, sort of like extra help for us to do any of the accessibility things that we might need to do for that student. So that's another thing to check your school for, if it's set up that way, and so forth. We actually just have an email. It's just accessibility.psu.edu that we can send an email to, and then they'll give us feedback and help us with all of that. And so I'm guessing, I can bet you, I just bet you, that all those things are worked out through your school, and so then you just have to figure out kind of, the right way to do it or whatever. So.
And Tim had asked about the quality of the videos. I mean, we have all degrees of quality.
Sure.
If your student is asking a question, they really aren't going to care. They just want to see it, right? So it doesn't have to be professional. It doesn't have to have a title slide. It doesn't have to have this intro. It doesn't have to have music. It doesn't have to have any of that, right? They just need to see you working out the problem and talking through it. They're very fast to make and they're very easy to make. And I've heard of one instructor, she was so funny. She was saying, if she thinks of something, she'll just take her phone, and it doesn't matter. Her hair could be up on top of her head. She doesn't care. She's just making a quick video so that the students will know, and she sends it out almost like an email. I'm not to that point yet. I'm not that casual. First of all, I don't want to bombard my students with a ton of videos every day. And also but as you can tell, like Leah and I both have kind of a solid background behind us. That's one thing you do need to be careful of if you're making a video of yourself, or if you're showing yourself during a class. Make sure there's nothing with your kids behind you. Make sure that there's not TV going, anything, lights flashing, anything like that. Really try to minimize the distractions behind you. And yeah, short is great. Just get to the point and they will really appreciate it. It doesn't have to be professional.
And I would argue that sometimes the ones that are less than professional, they're the ones that make the student think that you did it just for them, and they are so appreciative. And I'm not saying that to be like in a manipulative way. I'm just like, they know that you care about them because you are answering their specific question. And I think too, Tammy mentioned this before, when we make small mistakes, we can't be crazy, but if we make small mistakes, it makes us human. I think that our students during this period of remote teaching, especially, not that they weren't happy about, things going wrong or whatever. But we ended up teaching, I was teaching one of my classes, and I was trying to demonstrate something, and the software that I was supposed to use was not working. I was like caught dead in the water. There was nothing I could do. And the people that were in my class were sort of appreciative because they saw kind of how to troubleshoot live and that kind of thing. And so I think that people will forgive you. Students will forgive you for things like that. As far as keeping videos short, Francine, if you use Jing, they're limited to 5 minutes. So it's sort of imposed, forced short video. But yeah, you should definitely use shorter videos. If you have a 20-minute topic and you should split it up into several small ones. It makes a huge difference for attention span and learning and that kind of thing. And there's actually studies that show that if you make, I don't know the right numbers, I'm just gonna toss it out here. If I made one 30-minute video and I made 6 5-minute videos, they would watch so many more of the 5-minute videos that they would go on beyond the 30, right? So as long as they're shorter, in general, people will watch more of them. And so it's definitely a good idea to break those up. So excellent points, everybody. Thank you for chiming in. Another thing that we do now, we're talking still before the class, but we're kind of getting closer to the class. We actually send a welcome email. We make it it's long. I mean, it's a long one, and I'll put right at the top, I am sorry for sending such a long email, but there's a lot of stuff I want to get in there. Does everybody read it? Absolutely not. But you know what? So many of them do, because I get more comments on that welcome email, like more replies. I'll send it out and I'll get a reply back, thank you so much, I was so nervous, or this or that. And so we just make sure, like, again, you want to be warm and welcoming. I'm so glad you're going to be in my class, right? I'm looking forward to working with you. I love math. I hope you learn to like it a little bit too. And if you don't, well, it's true.
Yeah.
And I say that it's like a funny joke. It's like math is my favorite thing, but it doesn't have to be your favorite thing, right? But I, still want you to get through the class and whatever. Address the anxiousness. So whatever you think are the issues that keep your students from being the most successful or being anxious or whatever like that. Somebody was talking about econ. I remember I had an econ way back when. That class was scary to me. And I was a math person. I loved graphs, and still those graphs were like, oh no, what am I going to do? So address that anxiousness. Let people know that, hey, sometimes people are anxious. These are the kind of things that you can do about it. It's really okay. We're all in this together, that kind of thing. And I know some of it sounds like, oh, brother, it's just too much. I swear they'll appreciate it, though. They really will. Tell them how to do well in the course. Say it flat out. There are 1,000 points in my course. 500 come from this. 400 comes from this. You should do these kind of things to be the most successful. You should spend the most time on this. Try to give them a path, right? Try to give them a way that you know have worked. Let them know that you've taught for a while and that you've seen other students. And whenever you're responding to those sort of anxious emails or something, so I'll just say, and I say this in seminar or live meetings too, sometimes I'll say, listen, I know you don't know me very well yet, but you have to trust me. I've taught this class this many times. I've gotten students through it. I promise. You just have to give me a chance. And just knowing that I'm like, oh, like I want them to do well, I think makes a difference as well. Include important tips like, hey, read your book, more than just read your book, but, include important tips about the class. And then I think this goes without saying, just be as positive and motivating as you can. So send that out a few days ahead of time. Say, hey, we're coming up, gonna meet you soon, can't wait, and go from there. Gets that dialogue going. Sometimes it reminds the student when the class is gonna start, which is also a good thing. But anyway, it really makes a difference. So, all right, next.
Along with the preterm email thing, at the bottom of mine, I usually put 3 or 4 videos. Because I want them to be able to look at the course, and I'm showing them where everything is. You know, you click here and you see this, you click here and you see this, showing them where everything is. And then also for the discussion board, I'm saying, hey, you can go here and do this. And then for our software that we use, here's how you get to it, and here's how you go around in it. So those videos can really help them because they've at least seen it before. And even if they haven't done it yet, they've at least seen it, and they will remember it. And if they have trouble, they'll come back to it. So that's always a good thing. Leah mentioned that before the term starts, we usually have a what to expect. And these 2 courses, this is our college algebra course. And the Survey of Math course, which is kind of the math for non-math people. They are set up the same way. And so we combine this into one session. We invite all the students who are starting in that term, and we just go over these things. We say, hey, listen, you know, there are 1,000 points in the course. Here's where these points are going to come from. Here's where these points are going to come from. Here's where you find this in your course. All this kind of information, the questions they are asking, the things they are nervous about, that's what we are trying to convey to them before the course even starts. So we're going to go through these kind of quickly because I noticed we're kind of running out of time just a little bit. But the first thing we do, Leah was telling us earlier, make sure you tell them how to be successful. Well, in the research we've done with students who have passed this class, Leah, go ahead and go to the next one. As long as they don't have any zeros, they have a really high chance of passing this class. And so we let them know and we tell them, make zeros your enemy. You don't have to pass everything. You don't have to make an A on everything. Just don't get a zero. If you do get a zero, it's not the end of the world. But if you can just try not to get a zero, then the odds are really in your favor that you're going to pass the course. So we go through all of these things. We tell them how they're going to be graded. We show them where everything is in the course. And then we give them a little quiz at the end. And I can almost hear them go, when I say quiz, but then let's go over some of the quiz questions real quick that we ask. First of all, what happens if you miss the regularly scheduled meeting that we have every week? Because that's a grade for us. And I know somebody asked earlier about, are our discussion boards graded? Yes, they are. They're part of the grade. The regular meetings are also part of their grade. So what they can do is they can go back and watch that recording, submit a little alternate assignment we have in order to earn those points. Because I'm not so concerned that a student is free at this hour in this week. I'm concerned and I'm worried about the student actually getting the information. So I'm not, you know, if you can't make it here in this 1 hour this week, I'm cool with that. Just get the information. One of the other questions that we ask is when the deadlines are. You would not believe how many students are like, I didn't realize it was due, because with our school, it is a little bit different. Everything is due Tuesday night on Eastern time, not where the student lives. We have students all over the world. And so we really have to do everything in Eastern time. So just making sure that they can remember that is something that's going to help them out and help us out. Another question that we normally ask is, how do you get into this regularly scheduled meeting? And for us, it's through our LMS. For you, you may send out a Zoom link, or it may be the exact same Zoom link every week because you have an account and it's just your room and you use it. Make sure they know that. But all we're doing with this quiz is just reinforcing the important things that we've tried to tell them over the past. It takes about 40 minutes. I think there's one more. We have a math center. I imagine all schools by now have some kind of academic success center or student success center that offers tutoring. You can submit your papers so they can look over it. And we would like to know that our students use this and that they know about it, but they don't have the time. I actually took some classes a couple of years ago. So I went through the registration process and the enrollment process. And I will tell you, they are thrown a lot of information within like a week. And I can totally understand how that one piece of information could be overlooked. So make sure you reinforce things that are school policies as well as your course policies. Is there another one? There may be one more. Yeah, and we tried to make these questions where there's one answer that's kind of funny. Again, just putting in a little bit of humor to relax the students and know that we're there for them. We're here to encourage them and to help them. We're not here to nail them on every single mistake. So even, hey, do you have any questions over a concept? You know, YouTube was not around when I was in school the first time. YouTube is awesome. And so even if you want to go Google solving quadratic equations or something like that, we're all for it. We also have a video that tells them or shows them where the Math Center is and how to get there. And so it's, for us, it's called the Academic Success Center. We show them exactly where it is. And then go forward one more. And there are different departments that have tutors and will offer services for help. I think, Leah, that's on the next slide. And
Sorry,
so
I was
we
answering a
share.
question.
It's
Apologize.
okay. You're excused this time. You're excused. So here are all the different centers we have: writing, math, science, business, technology. They can go there. They can get answers to their questions. Most of our students use the math center the most. So we just want them to know where that is and let them know, hey, it's really easy to get there. We even have links to these inside our courses. So if they're in the course working around, they're like, oh yeah, that's that link to that place that can help.
Okay, so that was all the before the course stuff. That was a lot. So it was before the course and kind of leading up to the course.
And
Now we're
we are
going to
running out of time, by the way.
no, we're going to be fine. We're going to be fine. And now we're going to talk about during the course stuff. So we already talked about live course meetings. That makes sense. You know, you can decide how you want to offer those, when you want to offer those. Some of you have structured meetings, like for Penn State, because we're supposed to meet at certain times of the week, like Monday, Wednesday, Friday, whatever. Whenever we moved remote, they said instructors had to meet that way. So they were doing it that way. If you have flexibility, though, you can change that up, so you can decide how you want to do that. As far as using humor, whenever I do a live seminar, one thing I do is I'll say the next slide is going to be your favorite slide. It's going to be your favorite slide you ever saw. And they'll be like, oh my, you know, whatever. They're sort of playing along with me. But they do end up loving it, because then I say no final exam or something like that. So little things that build a little bit of whatever you want to call it, excitement or whatever. Everybody's happy when they don't have a final exam. The reason we don't have a final exam is because we have it broken up into like competency modules, sort of, so we can switch it to competency based also. And so they actually have an assessment like in each of the modules instead of one big one at the end. So whenever we talk about during the course, let's take course navigation into account. One thing there is to set up notifications, right? Make your life easy and teach students to make their lives easy with notifications. This is from Canvas, this one. This one is from Brightspace or D2L. And so set it up so that you get notified of the things that you want to get notified of. For example, on discussions, I have a, ask the instructor discussion board or whatever. I make sure I get those right away, because usually they're only posting there if they're having some sort of issue. And so that way I can get back to them right away. Maybe it's the last week of the course and I want to get grades done, or I need to get them feedback or something like that. So I could turn it on so that I get an email every time somebody makes a submission on a certain assessment or something. So that kind of thing. You can also set up discussions in the same way as far as notifications go and things like that. Tammy actually started to talk about this a little bit earlier. This is a Tammy special. Go on, dear.
No, it's okay. I just found that if I could give students something in the beginning, because some students like to work ahead, some students, tend to get behind. And so if I could say, hey, here's the due date for these assignments, you have all of this in unit 1 and then these in unit 2, and just go ahead and give that to them. A lot of students print it out and actually check it off. I love to check things off of lists, so I totally get it. But what we're trying to do here is just to give them like just a snapshot. Here's what you need to do this week. Here's when it's due. And now that all of us have been teaching online, we kind of have in our head a system. So if you can get that system and those assignments down on paper and share that with your students, they will greatly appreciate it. It all goes back to that structure. And then another thing that we do is we try to stay in constant contact with our students. We've already talked about the regular meetings. We call them seminars at Purdue Global, but you can call them class meetings, you can call them class times, you can call them whatever you want. Maybe your school has a special word for them, but they need to be regular because our students, they need that structure. They don't want to be in school where it's all willy-nilly and they're not sure what to expect.
Even if they think they do, they don't.
Even if they think they do, that's right. And then also we have weekly announcements that we post. It talks about, hey, this is what's due this week. Here are questions like FAQs, right? Here's some questions students usually ask about this. The answers are right there. Here's the due date. Just a general synopsis of the week. And we do it by weeks. Each unit is 1 week long. So however you do your units or your modules or whatever it is, just make sure you send out that, okay, this is what we're doing now. Here are the assignments. Here's when they're due, all that kind of good stuff. Also, I am not the kind of instructor that gives out my home phone number. My cell phone, that's kind of mine in my opinion, but I know a lot of instructors do, and they really enjoy it because the students text them or call them or whatever. One way around this is to get a Google Voice number, and that way the student has that number, but they don't have your number. And Google Voice numbers are free. You can have them forwarded to your phone. You can change them every year or so. There's lots you can do with that, but definitely just stay in contact with them. They need to know you're there. They need to know you care about them and that they haven't been forgotten. They think they want someone cares about them. Another thing that we've started to do.
You're getting a little in and out. Are you back?
I hope I'm back.
Okay, you're back. Go ahead.
Okay, good. It's okay. I was going to go on to this and just talk to we have come up with. We have 10-week terms. Our term is 10 weeks. So the math department, because we're math people, right? So it's the 1, 2, 3, 5, 8 plan. And it's just what we do each week. So we're going to go through these kind of quickly because I know we're getting toward the end. But in Unit 1, we just want to make sure that, first of all, we're going to respond to every email we get. I know that can be tedious, but even if you just send back, we're going to talk about emoji in a second. Even if you send back a Bitmoji, respond to every email. But especially during Unit 1, if there's somebody who's that they are nervous in class and they totally rocked, send them an email and say, wow, you did great. I'm so excited. Congratulations. I know you're going to do great things. If there's a student who maybe didn't do all the assignments or didn't do well, maybe you can send them an email and say, hey, I noticed you're trying. I really appreciate that. I really want to help you do better this week. Here are some things, or ask me questions. Just make sure you have that contact. During Unit 2, again, we send out emails, especially to those who are struggling. Those students who are getting it, they've already been kind of pumped up a little bit and they're good. But if they're not getting it, or if they're struggling with the technology, they're going to need a little bit more encouragement from you. When week 3 rolls around, so we're almost 1/3 of the way through the term, if there's a student who's being unsuccessful, matter of fact, it's like 75 and below or 80 and below or something like that, we refer them to the Success Center. And that way we can say, hey, we know you're trying. Try these resources because we just need to figure out what works for you. We need to figure out the best way for you to learn this material. So we contact their academic advisor and we refer them to the Success Center so that they can contact them and maybe get back. Once we're at Unit 5, we are halfway through the course, right? And it is such a good feeling to be on that downhill portion of the course. We definitely want to communicate. The students who are doing well, let them know. You are totally rocking the course. I really appreciate your hard work. Keep it up. We're almost done. You're over the hard part. I mean, there are all kinds of things you can say. For the students who are on the bubble, just say that. Say, hey, I know you're trying. I really need you to buckle down. Here are some resources. Contact me if you have questions. I mean, throw it all at them. And then if you have any students who have kind of slipped under the radar and they've just stopped participating, you may want to send them an email and say, I'm a little worried about you. I haven't seen you in class lately. There is still time for you to earn enough points to pass, because that's their goal, right? They want to pass. So we don't want to just cut them off at Unit 5 and say there's no hope for you whatsoever. You can just say something like, get back to me and let's work out a plan so that you can be successful. Then around Unit 8, we kind of do the same thing again. Send out all those emails. And truthfully, we haven't really talked about this much, but I have a couple of documents and it has all these emails typed out. And when I email students, they're blind copied. And so I can just go through and choose, and we have Brightspace, so it's really easy just to send out, and it looks like an individualized email to the students, but it's not. It's really kind of a bulk email that I'm sending out to everybody who has an A, everybody who has a B, everybody who has a C, all that kind of good stuff. And then what was next, Leah? What were we going to talk about next? Yay, this is the fun part.
And so this is another humor thing. I don't know if you've used Bitmojis, but students love them. We get more comments about Bitmojis and things like that. And so I'll just put them in my announcements sometime. So a little bit of encouragement you can do. What I do with Bitmojis too, which I don't know if you're probably supposed to do this, is I'll save the ones I use the most in a little file, and then I just insert them as images. So I don't have to go back every time to find them. But you can just put them in, different emails and things like that. They have ones for, hey, you did a great job, and everything's good, things like that. And then they have other ones you can use. I'm flexible. So if somebody asks for an extension and I write back, I'm flexible, one, they love me because they think, little do they know I would give everybody an extension the first time they asked. You know what I mean? So it's that kind of thing. So it's just like it gives them, if they see an email from me and that makes them smile, I'm, ahead of the game whenever they come to class and things like that. So we love that. Okay, after the class, just a couple quick tips. Capture your best stuff, right? If you go back and capture your emails that you sent or your announcements that you posted and things like that, capture that stuff that you used, that it worked well, so that you don't have to start over next time. Another thing you can do is ask students for feedback. And I'm not talking about the type of feedback that would be on your course evaluations. I'm talking about, an email to students to kind of wrap up the term. You are great. We had a great time. So glad our course is over. Go you. Do you have any feedback? How would you improve the course? Anything like that. They're already out of your course. They're not going to, if they're going to be, they're only going to answer you if they're going to give you, nice feedback or whatever. And so I don't mind bad feedback anyway. And then the last one is email the outliers. I actually had a statistics teacher way back when during my undergrad. And at the end of the semester, she would email the outliers and tell you that you were an outlier. And that was a huge thing because you learned what an outlier was, and that meant you were so far above the mean and stuff like that. And so at the end, take a few minutes to email the students who did really well, or the ones who had a rough time and still made it through. That stuff, here I am all this time later talking about that instructor. And so that really will pump them up for the next term and for other instructors and things like that. So, all right, I think we are right on time. And so here's our little Bitmojis now. So if you have any questions, we're going to look through the Q&A and answer some more questions right now as we go through. One we've got a couple different times is about, for the live class meetings, do you break those down into smaller videos? For those, I don't. Those videos, whether they're an hour, 45 minutes, whatever they are, students know that it's going to be 45 minutes long. And that I just leave the way it is. If I'm creating a video and I have a choice as far as how to break things up, then I definitely do that because I think it makes a big difference.
And Leah, one thing you can do, I know this sounds crazy, but it works. So if you have had a 45-minute or an hour-long class session, and you know that there were specific topics in there that maybe you want to use as shorter videos, you can play it on your screen and use a screen recording software.
Perfect.
And just record it again, but in 5-minute increments, and then label it as the topic, and boom, you're done.
Perfect. Perfect.
And yeah, so Rebecca was saying it's kind of funny. She was saying that she doesn't require the attendance at the regular meetings, but those who don't attend or don't watch do poorly. And that's exactly right.
Yeah.
Right.
We actually went through a thing a few years ago that was we're going to stop requiring attendance at seminars. And so they go through it every once in a while. And so my thing was, I figured the people who weren't going to do well weren't going to come anyway. And so I didn't mind that, but I don't.
Yeah, that didn't last long.
It did not last long. So it must have made some sort of difference. And so as far as Bitmojis, there's a question about where do you get Bitmojis? You go to bitmoji.com. And I'll type that into your response just so you have it in writing or typing. Yep, bitmoji.com. And you can make your own avatar and it can look like you however you want. And it's really cool. If you're a Gmail school, you can install it right on your Gmail toolbar, right on your email toolbar, and you can click it and insert it. It is super fast and super easy to do it that way. So we love it. Catchphrases to diminish anxiousness. Actually, that's a good thing. One thing I say is sharing is caring, which that's not quite as much, or that's not quite for anxiety though. We do use a lot of the growth mindset stuff. In fact, in Tammy's weekly emails, she always puts something about growth mindset or something like that. So one of mine is mistakes grow your brain. So if you're making a mistake, your brain is growing. So that's a good thing. And so we try to reframe it that way. If you haven't looked at the lost it, growth mindset stuff, definitely do that. Definitely do that. Yeah.
And I don't call it that.
No, she doesn't. She doesn't. Absolutely. Lots of people know growth mindset, even students and things like that, because they've been talked to about it and things like that. But you don't even have to acknowledge what it is. But those are the kind of things we're talking about. And that's one of the things about, just because you couldn't do math before doesn't mean you can't do math now, and that kind of thing. So.
And I saw a question Laura had asked about the discussion and responding to
Yeah.
one another. And Laura, yes, we do ask the students to respond to one another. That's part of their discussion grade. And so that's why we're trying to come up with interesting ways to respond. In math, it's really hard to just respond to a classmate because
Great
they've worked a
job.
problem. Yeah.
Great
Oh,
job.
I got the same answer. And half the time when the answer's wrong, you're like, oh no, you got the same answer. So what we tried to do is either get them to change the problem a little bit, or like we talked about with the human cannonball and the evil genius, create a scenario as to why the situation is even happening. And that way, again, they can feel connected to the students. Because when I first started working online, I'd been teaching face-to-face for a really long time, started working online, and I kind of felt that disconnect a little bit. But over time, you know what? Sometimes my students email me. They tell me things they would never have told me in person. And
True.
so in a way, it's a little bit better because they feel like they really can come talk to you. It's more of a controlled conversation for them.
Oh, Michelle says she uses the discussion board for growth mindset topics. Love that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, in the one class, we used to require, there's a growth mindset video, and there's another one that's a math anxiety video. I could pull those up, but I don't know if I'll be able to do it before this is over, but I can find a way to get that information to you. And so we would have them watch a growth mindset video and then kind of reflect on it and say what they're, what stuck with them or something like that.
And also we had a question about the outlier.
Oh yeah.
That means like you did really, really well, unusually well.
Yeah. I mean, you could use the outliers the other way, which means you did really poorly, but you would have to find a way to turn that into, something positive, maybe finding them a way to get help or something like that.
All right, I'm trying to see if there's anything else. I know we're about out of time. I just want to say thank you so much for coming today. I've really appreciated it. And y'all have some really good ideas here in the chat.
Absolutely.
Okay, so professors, thank you so much. Big thank you to our audience as well for a very lively Q&A section. I saw all of you jumping in and responding to each other there as we went. I'm sorry if we weren't able to get to your individual question, but I'm glad we were able to talk through a lot of them in real time as we were going. We did record the session today, and we will be sending that out. If you have questions for us at Hawks Learning, you can email us at marketing@hawkslearning.com. And Professor Rosenberry, if you send me the links to those growth mindset videos,
Great.
On the blog page where we'll be hosting this recording.
That would be great, because I have two great ones that I would love to share. One of them is about math anxiety, which is really a cool one. It's like, anyway, yeah, definitely. Sounds great.
Okay, well, we really appreciate everyone's time. Professors, thank you again. And I hope everyone has a great rest of their night and good luck this summer.
Thank you.
Take care, everybody. Thank you.